In the challenging F1 2022 season, the formerly dominant force in the sport, Mercedes, finished third behind world champions Red Bull and Ferrari, their first season without a trophy since 2013. Although the new regulations for the season were anticipated to be limiting, the W13 demonstrated that there was room for innovation with its unconventional zero-pod design. Despite this, however, Mercedes was unable to reclaim the World Championship title, and the team struggled to overcome porpoising issues, which hindered the performance of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell on the track. How have they addressed the issue so that it doesn't happen again this year? Stay tuned to find out. Mercedes intends to continue with their zero-pod design, hoping to discover its actual potential if they can resolve their porpoising difficulties permanently. However, if they are unable to do so, Sky Sports F1 journalist Ted Kravitz suggests that a backup car, known as the Plan B, is ready to be introduced during the F1 2023 season with a development trajectory similar to that of Red Bull and Ferrari. They're giving their big idea, that was a failure last year, one more go. But I believe they have a Plan B in production, and if they need to, they can go to a Plan B, which is the Red Bull or Ferrari style of doing things, in the middle of the season. At the moment, they're saying, look, we think we've got a proper handle on what went wrong last year. We still believe that our way is unique in the pit lane, and having very slim sideboards is the way to go aerodynamically. And anyway, they say most of the downforce is generated by the floor, which you can't see, but they're saying don't expect anything too soon. I think if they went away without 3 or 4 wins in a season, they'd be disappointed. And when asked why Mercedes can't resolve the issues at the moment, Kravitz said, "My reading of that was we've got more things coming online. We've got developments of the European season, and we think they're gonna work. But maybe the figures are very wrong eventually." Team boss Toto Wolff may have confirmed Kravitz's suspicions after talking about the W14 in his most recent press release. During the launch event, Mercedes released a statement to the media expressing their outlook for the 2023 season, and in that statement, team manager Toto Wolff included a single word that carried immense significance. The entire organization was pushing flat out last year. When we realized that the car wasn't where we wanted it to be, we mobilized every reserve we had. That never stopped throughout the season. We are now getting ready to start the next season. I see so much effort, motivation, and energy in the organization to launch a car that will eventually be competitive enough to fight at the very front of the grid. Naturally, the inclusion of this word in the pre-season press release was bound to pique the interest of journalists, and later during the launch day, Toto Wolff spoke to the media, including PlanetF1.com, about the statement's significance. He expressed his confidence in the W14's competitiveness, but was reluctant to excessively hype their prospects during the initial stages of the lengthy 23-race season. I was contemplating about that word for 15 minutes when we talked about the press release, because on one side, you want to say we will be competitive. On the other side, you need to stay humble and realistic so you could be saying, I hope that we will be competitive. We will be competitive. We just don't know when. Eventually. I think we are on the slope that we wanted to be in terms of our performance, but then you don't know where the other ones are. Humility is most important. We always try to be humble. Especially after last year, we need to remind ourselves we were quite far off for a long time in the season. Since the beginning of the hybrid era in 2014, Mercedes has won every Constructors' Championship, but in the 2022 season, they were displaced from their top spot by Red Bull and Ferrari, which became apparent quite early on. As the season progressed, and the team could only manage a late season resurgence, Wolff was asked how he and Mercedes accepted this inevitability. He stated that it was always a matter of when, rather than if, it would occur, and how the team prepared for it. We talked about it for every single year when we were successful that, eventually, we were going to have a difficult one. There is no sports team in the world that has won every single competition they participated in. So that moment has come last year. And it was difficult because it was not just a race that went wrong, it was a whole season, or the whole at least first half of the season. So it was about really living to our own standards, staying motivated, not blaming anyone in the organization, but sticking our heads together and trying to work workers out of the dilemma. That's something that showed the strengths of the team in our values and mindset. Hopefully, that can be a good, continuous base for our growth. Red Bull finished last season with 244 points ahead of Mercedes, a gap that surpassed the combined points of 7 teams on the entire grid. As a result, The Silver Arrows seem to be approaching the upcoming season with a more pragmatic than hopeful attitude. Technical Director Mike Elliott speaks out on the team's outlook with a fresh season upon us. "We are under no illusions that it is going to be tough. We are starting behind and we are not the favorite. That is an unusual position for us to be in over the last 10 years, but we are focused on ourselves and working out how we do the best job we can." Lewis Hamilton seems to agree with Elliott's words, saying, "I think this year everyone's a lot more grounded. We perhaps won't be the fastest out the gate, but we have the potential to hopefully be closer and to close the gap early on in the season." Speaking of Hamilton, if we recall events around a year ago, Christian Horner made a bold statement regarding the 7-time world champion after the controversial 2021 season came to a finish. Horner gave us his prediction of how events will pan out in Mercedes after signing George Russell. "It's the first time Mercedes have been beaten in 7 years. That's gonna have hurt. I'm sure they will come out all guns blazing at the start of this year. George is a really talented guy. He's very quick, and I don't think he will be a subservient second driver. He will get stuck in. It's great that we have so much talent in the sport with Verstappen, Russell, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and of course, Hamilton still at the top of his game." Although Horner likely did not anticipate Mercedes to have such a subpar season in 2022, he was correct in his assessment of Russell. The young British driver appeared to belong from the start, having made a substantial leap from Williams and hitting the ground running. In their first year as teammates, Russell and Hamilton worked together admirably, striving to push the team to its limits. However, both drivers have recently acknowledged that their relationship could shift if they found themselves battling for the championship against each other. "It would be a different story if it was a matter of first and second place," said Hamilton. And George would go on to say, "If you are fighting for 1-2s, there will be a slightly different dynamic, and that's only natural." In 2022, the FIA scrutinized the financial records of the teams from the previous year, and during this investigation, Red Bull was found to have committed a minor overspend breach. As a result, they received F1's second largest financial penalty of $7 million, as well as 10% reduction in wind tunnel time for the 2023 season. While Red Bull's penalty is already affecting their 2023 development, according to Christian Horner, Toto Wolff is of the opinion that it will not have a significant impact on the progress of the RB19 during the upcoming season. "The lack of wind tunnel time is certainly not great for them, and an advantage for us this season. But, if you have an efficient machine, you can certainly compensate for that, or large parts of it. So long term, good for us, but we've been in that situation, obviously without a penalty, in the years before. We've won, and therefore, we had less wind tunnel time than everybody else for the last 2 seasons. It's certainly going to bite them a bit, but if they are efficient as an organization, which they've demonstrated, it's not going to be big." What are your thoughts? Will Mercedes be needing their Plan B car this season? Is Toto Wolff right to doubt their abilities to win immediately? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for more F1 news.